99.9 FM HD3, also on the iHeart Radio app. You can find us there. Jax is here. Shu back in the iHeart Radio studios. We're hanging out today. Twin Peaks on Camelback. The TVs have on the Olympics on almost every channel and Major League Baseball as well. It is your place to watch any sport that you want to watch. And that means that we're going to say good afternoon to former Cowboys QB. That is Danny White, who joins us right now, the author of a new book, Spotlights and Shadows. And you can follow Danny on X or Twitter at Danny White 11. Danny, welcome to the show, pal, as always. So how long did it take you to document everything, get it on paper, and then finally formulate it into this book?
Well, you know, it's been a long process. Mostly my kids trying to convince me that I should write a book in the first place. But more than that, it was just really to document some of the experiences that I've had, because they all have a significant effect on me and my life. And my daughter, Heather, who has become a certified life coach and an excellent writer, is the one really that thought that I had an obligation. She finally got to me by telling me that because of the great opportunities that I've had in my life, and I have, and that they're unique and that very few people get to experience, living life in that fast lane as a celebrity. And I never wanted to be a celebrity. I just wanted to be a football player. But it was them that really convinced me that I kind of had an obligation to share what it was like, and some of the experiences that I'd had, and then relate them to people that really don't ever have that same opportunity. And so it's been years and years in the making, and I basically just put the stories together. My daughter organized them into a book, and there you go.
You know, Danny, I'm anxious watching you grow up, growing up in the McClintock area and going watching games when you were at Westwood High School, and we were just 7th and 8th graders, and following you at ASU and then following the Dallas Cowboys. We aspired to be a Danny White and to kind of follow your footpaths for quarterbacks in the Valley. So I'm very curious as to how much of the Frank Kush era, I can imagine the Tom Landry era, how much of that Frank Kush era is in the book, and was it all roses and chocolates and candies while you were at ASU?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course it's never what it appears, but I will tell you there were three men in terms of influencing my football career in my life that were profound. The first, of course, was my dad, who was the first All-American at ASU and then went on to play for the Chicago Bears. But more than that, we were constantly competing around the house, ping pong, basketball, whatever. And then, of course, Frank Kush at ASU, who turned me from being a baseball player, and I was at ASU on a baseball scholarship, to convincing me that I could actually be a football player. And it took, I don't think any other coach could have gotten that out of me. Frank Kush basically challenged me to be mentally tough enough to play quarterback at the college level. And so he was profound. And then, of course, Tom Landry, who gave me an opportunity and convinced me that I could play it at an even higher level. So those three men are all big parts of the book, and stories about both that influenced my career, and turning points, really, that things that happened that if it weren't for those things happening, I never would have had the opportunities that I had.
Danny, just the impressions they have is paramount to hear you talk about that, and anxious to get the book and read it. But there was a point in time, I can imagine, myself as a backup quarterback, you were backup for several years, starting with the Memphis Southmen of the World Football League, knowing that the Cowboys had a couple guys there. But at some point, were you getting a little anxious to be that backup quarterback and maybe go to Coach Landry and say, look, I either want to be traded or we got to make something work out here, while Roger Staubach was the guy?
Well, I had that conversation with Coach Landry, and just prior to Roger retiring, and he and Roger had talked, and Roger was very open with me. He was not a guy that was going to push it, and he had some concussions, and he was concerned about it, and so I basically told Coach Landry that I really needed to make a decision that I was either going to become a starter or just be a backup for the rest of my career, because, when Roger retired, I had played 6 years in professional football. So I was in my 7th year, and it was kind of now or never in terms of becoming a starter. And that's when Roger kind of came to me and told me that he was not going to take any chances with his concussions. He was real close to retiring. And then after that last playoff game in his career against the Rams, I think I was probably the first one that he told it to publicly. He just came up to me in the locker room after the game, and he said, "Whiz, I'm done." And that was the first I'd heard about him officially retiring, and then, of course, shortly after that, he announced it.
Former great quarterback Danny White from ASU and Dallas Cowboys joining us here on the right to get a sense. So, Danny, I guess my ultimate question as we wrap up on the book, what do you want people to take away from this book that you and your daughter wrote?
Well, I think the message of the book, I hope, is that, fame and fortune is temporary. It's not the kind of qualities that we need to develop as if we're trying to develop permanent or gain permanent assets. And and the perfect example of that is, my mom made me practice the piano every day after school before I could play ball with my friends. For 8 years, she made me do that from the time I was 5 until I was 13. And I can remember sitting in the living room and looking out at the kids playing ball, and there I was playing the piano. And you know what? I don't throw footballs anymore, but I play the piano almost every day. And so I have Mom to thank. And not only that, but the discipline that was developed from practicing the piano, doing something I didn't want to do before I could do something that I desperately wanted to do. That kind of discipline is something that doesn't just come naturally. You have to develop it. And I have my mother to thank for that. And then the fact that I was developing a talent, I just think that God loves us all equally. I don't think whether you're the quarterback for America's team or a doctor or work in a McDonald's, whatever you do, God loves us all just the same. And in terms of eternal talents, there are things that are a lot more important than throwing a football.
Hey, Danny, about 30 seconds left. Do you have an idea where the book will be available? And if so, can you tell everybody?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Danny White, Spotlights and Shadows. And it's been out for about a week or so, and it's available now.
Always great, pal, when you take time to come on our show. Thank you. Congratulations on the book. It's going to be a great read. Have a good one, Danny.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Good to be with you.
There you go, Danny White, former Cowboys QB. I'm really interested in reading that book.
I am too.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of books that I read, as you can tell if you've known me for 20 years. I think Mice and Men, maybe the last
Very
one I read.
good.
Yeah,
Wow.
or was
Moby Dick?
or Ryan,
Moby Dick.
or Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the
The
Rye.
other one.
You know, with Danny, just think about it. He's played under two of the greatest football coaches with
Mhm.
Frank Kush, Tom Landry, just the experiences. And you imagine backing a guy up for like 6 years, and he's finally like, hey, Coach Landry, can I talk to you? I mean, where are we at right now? And just happens in 1980, Rogers said after that playoff game, I'm done. Hey, Wiz, I'm done. I'm moving on.
You guys have to remember that I lived this story.
Yeah.
I was there in Dallas. And when we did the news conference, when Staubach retired, Danny White was named the starter. And then the upcoming fall, the first preseason game that I broadcast for the Cowboys on Channel 5, KXAS in Dallas, Staubach was my color commentator, and Danny White started that preseason game.
You know, it's interesting. If it's not for the catch by Dwight Clark,
Yeah,
Danny White takes that 1980 Cowboy team,
That's correct.
or 81 Cowboy team,
yeah,
to the Super Bowl.
yes,
So Montana and
Yep,
gang,
all that,
they
yeah.
trumped them. And if not by the fingernail tackle on Drew Pearson on a dig route, 51 seconds were left.
Yeah.
Folks will realize that. He catches that. He goes up there. They might have come back and won that game. Danny had an outstanding career as a
he
quarterback.
did. He did.
He was one of the top punters in the National Football League for many, many years. And the trivia is that he started off his first pro career with the Memphis Southmen
Of
for
the
2
World
years
Football League.
until they folded because he knew that quarterback situation. There was Staubach and Craig Morton
Craig Morton was
were
there.
at the time. So Danny, it'd be a great. I just like when they pull the curtain back and talk about. Well, this is some of the stuff we did at the Fiesta Bowls and with Frank. And they weren't real happy with Frank, because of how hard he was
Right.
in practice.
Yep.
But they went out there on game day and just crushed people. And so anxious to read about the Fiesta Bowls as well too.
All right, Danny White, presented by our great partnership with All City Towing, the largest towing company in the state. And they're hiring dispatchers, call takers, lot attendants, drivers, customer service personnel, and you get great benefits if you indeed decide to go to work for All City Towing. Set your work schedules. You get a healthy 401k, employer match, health benefits, employer paid life insurance, and a monthly fuel allowance. Ready to take your career to the next level? Just go to allcitytowing.com. That's allcitytowing.com, where the future is on the move.
All right, it's a Throwback Thursday and the first NFL game of the year. We will take you back with some of the bits that we've played over the last 20 years on these airways, including my favorite called WTF, Widows to Football.